adventure dog is out the river. There are bear tracks everywhere. Big buck tracks coming down. And you want to go check them out, don't you? All right, let's do this. And just like that, I'm back at the ranch. Almost caught up in sleep, not quite. Man, I've slept the shits the past few days over in the old hometown. But oh well, whatever. I'll catch up soon enough. Got a lot of voices to share. I got a quick message, I think. Maybe I'll start off with my message, all right? It might be a couple minutes long, but it's important and it's meant for every single one of you out there. All right? Excuse me. Now, first, so you can understand my position on this, I'm going to try to put you there, all right? Let's just say, you live rurally, all right? You live rural. Maybe you're not home. Maybe just the wife is, all right? Follow me along. Just say, just the wife's at home. You live rural, on a dead-end road. And all of a sudden, some strange man is walking up your driveway through the closed gate at dinner time in the rain and knocks on the door. Uninvited. Stranger, don't know who he is. Heaven forbid that ever happens. And say Sarah opens the door and here's this strange man standing right there. Says, yeah, I found you on the internet. And shows up at your home, uninvited, knocks on the door, through the closed gate, down a long driveway. And all you men out there, and you ladies, no matter, regardless of who this person is, they might be the most kind person in the world. They may not be. It's a 50-50 roll of the dice. So what are your feelings right now? Be honest with yourself. Especially you men out there. You're not home. Somebody shows up banging on the door claiming they found you from the internet and follow your shit. Is that cool? Or not? And all you ladies, what do you think of that? Is that cool or not? Gonna make you feel good? You can invite them in? Too late, the door's open if you're by yourself. They're already on your property. They're right next to you. The entrance into your home, the most sacred place on the planet. Too late. It's done. The deal's done, regardless of who they are, how friendly they are. The deal's done. Whatever the deal they have to deliver, it's done. Anyway, so I just got home yesterday, finally really tired, just pouring rain, and it's frickin' dinner time, 6 o'clock, dinner time. And I got a text from one of my neighbors, who's in full view of my property, and this is somebody you don't want to tangle with. Text me, says there's a carload of dudes at the top of my driveway in a car. And one of them's coming down your driveway. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, oh, here comes this guy walking down my driveway. I'm thinking, don't know him. Who's this? What's going on? Right? And told the kid to go get the equalizer, which we'll just leave it. It's an equalizer. And put it right there. Put the dog on the leash, answer the door, and here's some guy. I don't remember his name or who he's from, but allegedly follows me on this channel and came to my home uninvited and tracked me down, figured out where I lived. And, I'll just say this. He said, hey, we're the same. Is one of the things he said to me, and I'm like, no, you're not. We're not the same. You know, for me, I have lived most of my life rurally. I travel in the middle of nowhere, and sometimes I've turned around, like say on the Alaska Highway, and I've used somebody's rural driveway to turn around, way away from their house. But I feel a little, I don't feel comfortable even turning into somebody's driveway at the end of it just to turn around rurally. You know what I mean? It's just you have that so much respect for a rural family in their home, and you don't want to possibly seem like some kind of weird, strange intruder. That's how I carry myself. Would I possibly go up? You know, it's different if somebody's looking for help. That's an obvious. You know, somebody's got a gas can. They're panicked. They got the family with them. They're broken down. It's an easy one to see. But on my road, if you need help and you're broken down, you're not making it anywhere near my place. First off, it's a dead-end gravel road. But anyway, all I'm saying is this. Afterwards, you know, it's almost in a way, and I don't give a flying shit who anybody is or their demeanor, that is not the right thing to do. And that almost in a way takes your innocence away from your home, right? It makes you second guess being away from home. Holy shit. Right? What if Sarah was here? What if that? I don't know who the fuck this guy is. I guarantee you he's definitely a few bricks shy of a full load. And I'm really biting my lip right now. Because, oh, and he said I really want to see what's on your phone. Right? I'm like, get the fuck out of here. You don't get to see shit. Get out of my yard. Right? But anyway, what my message is this. I talked to my neighbor across the road, who's... my neighborhood is full of fairly rednecky, independent people who take care of each other. They all got big signs that say this is a vigilant neighborhood. And they gave me one to put up, and I'm not into signs. But now I got to put a sign on my fucking end of my driveway. And what my sign's going to say is, if you cross this line uninvited on your feet, you're not going to walk out on your feet. I'm sorry to say that, but that's how it's going to be. That's how it's going to have to be. You know, people say, well, you put it out there where you live. You could find any celebrity, any movie star, anybody. You can find anybody where they live right now on the internet. It's not hard. Quit being stupid. It's 2025. But to go out, to walk down a man's driveway uninvited that you saw him or her on the internet, rurally, nope, we're not going to do that here. That's once. And so my other neighbor, he's got security cameras everywhere. So 100% he's got that car on his cameras. But we made a pact last night after thinking about the possibilities, what just went down, what could come down in the future. So everyone knows, if anybody shows up on my property unannounced and crosses my gate and comes down up to my house, a male, 2 males, uninvited, there's going to be no questions asked. 0. You're not going to leave walking. All right, we made the pact with the neighbors. End of story. That's how it's going down. Okay? Respect people, all right? If you got some screws loose, well, there's nothing I can do about that. All right? But I'm picturing, you always picture the possibilities of what might happen, what could happen. And the timing, you know what I mean? Timing meaning it's too late. They're there at the door. You're not home, and they're at the door. Yeah, we got a big dog. But whatever. Hold on. Alright, so anyway, so there you go. Take from what you will, leave it. Some may agree with me, some may not. Obviously, I don't give a flying shit. You do not do that to anyone. If you do something like that, you should expect some real bad things to happen. I would in a heartbeat. Do you know what I mean? I would expect nothing but a very, very negative response if I found somebody on the internet, did my own stalking, found out where they lived, and then showed up on their rural property at a dead-end road banging on the door at dinner time one day. We don't do that. All right? Don't do it. All right? Don't do it. I'm a very friendly, kind person. You bump into me in public and say hi, which people do everywhere I go. Everywhere I go, people bump into me. And if you have bumped into me in the past, please put down in the comment section how it went. All right? Friendly. You stalk me online, come to my home. I don't give a flying shit what your excuse is. All right? That's the rules starting right now. Okay? End of story. Some people say, why don't you phone the cops? Phone the cops. I was thinking about that. I was talking to the boy this morning. I'm like, you imagine? Okay, I'm on the phone. Yeah, a guy just broke into my house. He's punching my wife in the face. Yeah, how long till you get here? There we go. There we go. Take from what you will or leave it. Agree with me or not. I don't give a flying shit. Anybody shows up at my rural property unannounced due to full-on stalking me online. We've got a pact. And believe me, my neighbors, I am definitely the more kind. All right? Definitely more the kind. Don't do it. Don't do it. 100% warned. Endo. And a story. Now, back on to some happier topics. What do we have? What do we have? I found... You know, it's funny getting back to the messages. I was looking... I have so many now. I can type in basically any word into the search box on my inbox. Like, what was I doing? I put hunt. Hit search. I don't know how many hundreds of emails came up, and then there's a whole slew of unread ones sporadically through it. And I found unread emails that way. And then I typed in, I saw. Boom. A whole bunch more come up, and a whole bunch more unread came up, random ones. Anyways, I was doing that this morning, and I came up on one that was titled My Hunting Story Part 2. And it wasn't read. And I opened it up, and he had Part 1 attached as well and a bunch of pictures. So we're going to start off with that one. Excuse me. Unread. Now, how did I save this? Part 2. And then there's, I think Part 1 is on the bottom here. Part 1. Here we go. Ready, guys? Hello, Steve. My name is Ross. You can use my name and share my short tale if you desire. My goal is not only to share what happened to me and my brother, but also hopefully encourage someone else to come forward, especially since you don't really hear about these creatures in Arizona. So a little backstory. I'm a Marine Corps veteran with 2 combat deployments to Afghanistan. I'm an average deer hunter, and I have about a 50% success rate. And needless to say, I'm not the best woodsman or hunter, but I certainly have had enough experience to not be surprised by much. But I always keep an eye out for things that just might turn into a bad situation. This 2021 spring bear, I was lucky enough to get drawn for a bow tag in northern Arizona, Unit 22, the Mogollon Rim area. Our season opened April 30th and continues till July 30th. I started this season with a bang and was out there opening day, leaving straight from work and headed right out to the areas I scouted in the off-season. I was with my younger brother, and he was my security. He carried a semi-auto shotgun with low recoil 1-ounce rifled slugs. We both had sidearms, and both of us are extremely proficient in self-defense, so we weren't afraid of anything at the time. First 2 mornings went by without anything of note. On the 3rd day, we changed to a far-off watering hole that took us 2 hours on side-by-side, and then a 45-minute stalk into position. We got set in that morning just before first light. And for the first little bit, it was a quiet, perfect morning, watching the sun come up, and then we heard bipedal footsteps coming in from the uphill, our rear side of the watering hole. We were set in to watch the primary game trails that were leading to the watering hole. While hearing the footsteps walk, we came to the conclusion that it must have been another hunter, since there was a handmade tree stand about 20 yards from us. But as this unknown stalked close, we noticed a musty, almost skunky smell that just made our eyes water. After we started smelling the skunk-type smell, we noticed that the footsteps had stopped, but felt that we were being watched and breathed on. As we sat there, we were now realizing that who, or whatever it was taking our exact route into our hide. After I told my brother this, we decided to both stand up at the same time to confront whatever was coming our way. And as we did this, we heard a loud piercing, almost whooping noise. That a loud branch break, and whatever was stalking us took off. But I've never heard footsteps this loud or weight-bearing like a drum. As we both stood there absolutely freaked out, we started to understand that whatever we heard, we would have had a hard time defending against it if it was going to attack. So, we took the most direct route out of there. And as we were walking out, we came across a set of huge prints. I've included the best pictures we had from that trip. As we took the pictures, we got the sense that we were being watched. and started hearing what I can only describe as a chattering, but it sounded like child gibberish. And as we heard this, we caught scent of the skunky garbage smell again. And at this point, I pulled my sidearm and rapidly discharged 3 shots into the ground in between us and where the sound was coming from. While my brother had his shotgun ready for whatever showed up. However, almost immediately after I made those 3 shots, we felt an amazing sense of relief and safety. We hiked the rest of the way out without any further incident and never went back to that hole again. I'll never forget that feeling I'll never forget the feel that for the first time of my life, I was outmatched. Both in lack of equipment, but also a lack of understanding what I was up against. I've been all around that rim and those mountains for years. I'll never go back to that stretch of area. I haven't tagged out yet, so who knows, maybe I might stumble into another interesting area. The pictures with the number 2 on them were deeper impressions in the dirt, making me think it was a much heavier creature. For reference, I wear 9.5 boot. I'll keep you updated if anything else happens. Thank you for creating a way of sharing our encounters with the public without judgment. Okay, that was part 1. Let me load the photos in here. All right, there you go. Shared. Appreciate that, man. First part. I'm getting the second part now, too. The second part, too, now. Not quite awake yet. And as everyone knows, you can go and try it yourself to calm yourself down. If daytime photos of footprints, you can't really see them make you upset. But one of the toughest things to do is get a footprint or impression on dirt through to the camera in a photograph in daylight. It's very hard. The best way to do it is with a flashlight at night, off to the angle so you see the shadows, and you see it clear. Just so you know, it's very, very hard thing to do. I've done it myself. I found a clear, huge frickin' footprint in the dirt, and I took a picture of it. You can't even tell. I had to outline it with a string, I think, to show exactly where everything was smashed down. It's tough. Part 2. Hey Steve, here's my part 2, and I've included the first email below. I'm sorry in advance for any grammar or typos. After my first encounter with a, quote, large unknown bipedal, end quote, as I'll call it, I swore up and down never to return to the area where me and my brother were stalked. I just had to go back. Mostly out of my Marine Corps arrogance / pride, but also out of lack of my own understanding of what we were dealing with. So, still needing to tag out on my bear tag, I decided to go out to that area again. To start off, not only did I bring my brother along again, partly under duress and partly because he's a good person and doesn't want anything to happen to me, but I made the mistake of bringing my wife along as well. Now, with my wife, she's been out in the woods almost as much as both me and my brother, so she's familiar with the normal sights, smells, and sounds of Arizona's wildlife. So, to set the stage, us 3 amigos take the truck out to the middle of nowhere and walk what seems like forever, since we didn't have a side-by-side this time, and set in a nice hunting blind that I recently purchased. We sat back about 45 yards from the water that we're on overwatch on and blended in quite well. Being a 0311 rifleman, I've had the opportunity to set up well-hidden observations posts for our deployments as well as in training. Everything we have on and with us has been sprayed down with scent killer and did our best to hide our ingress and egress routes in case. So now that we're set in, we just wait. The sun finally starts to rise and we see and hear wildlife starting to make their way to the water. We see a cow elk and a few birds make their way in to drink, and it's all normal. Still no bear. I didn't know till later, but my wife had just started her cycle. She realized it at one of the gas station's bathrooms on the trip up. But she needs to make several nature calls while we're out there, and every time I'd escort her out to go to the area she would use, would go dead quiet, and we kept smelling the same garbage/skunk smell around us. But like I said, it was dead quiet. No birds, no noises, just us and the sounds of our breathing. And didn't think anything about it at the time. So, the majority of the ridiculously hot day passes without anything of note until about 1830-ish comes around and it finally starts to cool off. And of course, right when we expect bear movement, the wife has to go again. So on the last time, quote, she promised, I'm escorting her. My brother mentions if I'm gonna come check on him again while she's going. Sorry, let me read that. I'll try to read that smoother. So on the last time, quote, she promised, end quote, I'm escorting her. No punctuation, so it's screwing me up. Sorry. I'm escorting her. My brother mentions if I'm gonna come and check on him again while she's going. Confused, I asked what he meant, and he said every time we left, he heard footsteps coming from the area we would head off in, and thought I was just returning to keep an eye on things. And after telling him multiple times that it wasn't me, my wife thought the same thing about me stalking around behind her while she was going. She didn't say anything before because she just assumed I was providing security. After assuring both that I wasn't effing with them, we came to the conclusion that we must have had a visitor near us. And it was back. As we sat in discussing our options over the next 10-ish minutes, we see this dark figure covered in almost deep brown hair move from the area that my wife had been using for her nature calls. I thought I was on edge before. There were no words to describe the overwhelming feeling of emotions you get from seeing this creature. Now, Steve, I've been in combat, and I thought that I experienced every range of emotions there is. But this was different. Not only fear, but wonder, and the realizing once again we were outgunned. And now I had my wife and my brother with me, and they were more or less a liability. Now this creature was damn near 9 feet tall, and had shoulders as wide as 2 men. And feel that we were only seeing it because it wanted us to. We looked at it for less than 3 seconds, although it felt like 20, and we heard the same gibberish as before from behind us. I turned around as fast as I could while dropping my bow and drawing my pistol, expecting for the fight to be on, but thankfully I didn't see anything. Just the 45 yards of openness in the water, and nothing else. Not seeing anything, I spun back around and raised my weapon at where I last saw the creature before, and it was gone. And then, the deafening yell/roar that was so loud I felt it in my chest. After a few moments to be sure the creature was gone, we realized that we didn't want to lose any more sunlight and started heading back to the safety of the truck. Unfortunately, we had to walk through the area where we saw the creature in order to walk out, and right where the creature was standing was one of my wife's tampons on the ground. This is when she told me about her cycle starting. This tampon was 30 yards or more from where she was using nature, and the only way it could have gotten there was if the creature picked it up and moved it. Absolutely freaked out, and remembering our last encounter that me and my brother had, I told my wife and my brother to cover their ears, and once again I discharged 3 rounds into the ground between us and the nearest dense cover. I honestly don't know if it helped or not, but it felt like I had to do something. On our entire way out, we kept hearing noises like it was stalking us or even pushing us out. And as a Marine, I hate to my core the idea of giving up ground, but I'll tell you, we couldn't have gotten out of there fast enough. Thankfully, Unit 22 has reached its female harvest limit, and the area is shut down, so I don't have the need to be out there anymore. I've included some pictures of the area we were at on this trip, as well as the footprints from Part 1. With us seeing this thing and the absolute need to get out ASAP, I didn't take the time to try to find tracks for pictures. Oh well, maybe we'll go out again looking for it, but you better believe I'll never be in a position to be outgunned again. Thanks again for giving me the opportunity to share my story without feeling crazy. And there you go. Appreciate that email, my man. And just so you know, and I get it, what it must feel like to be, to feel like you're giving up ground. But just so you know, 100% of all of our combat experienced veterans have expressed the exact same description of fear. Absolutely outgunned, absolutely terrified, and felt absolutely helpless. Okay, man? So just take that into account if you find the odd time you're beating yourself up a little bit, all right? Just take that into account. But I get it. I mean, I get mad at myself any times I have felt that I am scared, or terrified, not terrified, but scared, and I react to being scared, and then I know that that bothers me. I hate being scared. I don't want to be scared. I don't want fright to change my quality of life. So a lot of things I do intentionally by myself. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to feel scared. But I don't think none of us have that choice. When it comes down to this scenario you just shared here, we don't have that choice. It doesn't matter how A-type, how confident you are, how much you think you can push through it. I don't think we have that choice when it comes to these experiences myself. And I have a feeling the roar came from the gunshots. I think if you didn't shoot the gun off, it probably wouldn't have roared. But who knows? I don't know. I can't say. Now, if you've been following this channel for any amount of time, you know that there's a lot that goes on around that area. But a lot goes on around that area, like with the Arizona 4, they hang out there, I believe, and it's all nothing bad. Nothing bad, directly bad, has happened to them. It was crawling faster than I could run. There's a follow-up email. Okay, I got to remember to go to the top. Hi, Steve. In my initial email, I mentioned putting an encounter in the comments. I was listening to someone's story, and it made me want to write this. This is my second and last sighting. My first, which I believe was a child black-haired Sasquatch. This story begins with me heading to a buddy's house to get some weed. It was 7 or 8 in the morning. I hopped in my truck and rode over to... I think I read this. I did read this. Why was it put in there as unread? I don't know, but I caught it. All right, there we go. Read it. Here's another one. Huge face in the window. Just my opinion. Steve Isdall for Prime Minister. My name is Billy Goforth. I'm 69 years old, and you can use my name because, like you, I don't give a shit what people think, and I'm not out to impress no one. Right on, my man. We're on the same bench. Okay, now to my encounter. I was at my sister's house up in Boise, Idaho, and my brother-in-law, C, and my sister and my uncle, B, and his wife and his 5 children. All girls, oldest, Sherry 12, Sally 11, Nell 10, and the twins Yankee and Rebel about 3, and I was 11. Went up in the mountains to go for a snow day. But actually the guys were doing some deer scouting for bow season. This started the next weekend. We were in a station wagon with snow tires and chains on. So the guys took off and the women and us kids played in the snow. The men came back just before dark. We had sandwiches and chips for dinner, and then we were going to head back to town. It was getting dark as we started, and my uncle was making a U-turn to head back, and backed right into the ditch. We were buried. The rear wheels hanging off the ground. Now it's already getting dark, and the men decided to walk to the ranger station about 6 miles back. We piled into the car, ran the heater for a bit, and then shut down the engine. And with a bunch of sleeping bags, we were covered up. They started telling ghost stories to keep us under control, and some good stories to not scare us too much. We dozed off one by one until I was left. We were laying with Nellie's feet and Sherry's feet my way, as my feet her way. Then Sally's my way, then the twins are up against the rear seat. My sister's in the rear seat, my aunt's in the front seat. Okay, now for the encounter. As I was laying down watching the stars, the window would fog up and I would wipe the window with my hand and continue to stargaze. As I wiped the window, something huge wipes the window on the outside. And then I was staring up some huge nostrils, trying to figure it out. And suddenly Sherry screams and I sat up and scrambled to her side of the car. And its face was taking up the window. That is when the comedy of errors start. I screamed, Sally screams, and then it screamed. Everyone is scrambling around in the back of the car and trying to get up to the front seat as it moves to the rear window, and grabbed the top of the car and started to shake the car. By now we're all up in the front seats with the adults screaming and crying. Then we see the tow truck lights coming up the hill, and then it spotlights us, and it's nowhere to be seen. But my brother-in-law is looking into the car saying, "What's going on?" It was about 7 feet tall and black and hair long on top of its head. None on its face but a mustache and a beard. The lips were wide and the teeth were like ours, but its canines were a little bit long but not much. Sparse hair on its chest. Evil look in the eyes, like it wanted to eat me, is burnt into my mind, and I can still see it today perfectly. It scared me so much that I blocked it out for many years until I started to watch zombie stories on YouTube, especially your channel. And bit by bit it started coming back, until I started having nightmares again, then my sister telling that I used to have them back then. As I watched more of your channel, it started to get easier to cope with it. So now I'm ready to share with you and join the club in no return. Sounds like you joined a while ago. Thank you for just being honest with yourself and sticking up for your beliefs and your morals are refreshing. If more people were like you and me, the world would be a better place to live. Watch your six, Steve. Just because you're paranoid does not mean that they're not there. Thanks for all you do, Steve. Billy, go forth. Billy, appreciate that, man. That's a frickin' terrifying experience for children and the women. And I wonder if, do you still talk to your siblings about that? And what do they say? Have they blocked it out? They want to talk about it? That'd be a curious mention for a lot of people here, I believe. And that's exactly the description my old girlfriend had when it ran beside the car. She said his head filled the frickin' window, side window of the car, and his teeth were just like ours. But she didn't say it looked evil in any way at all. And she said it had the look on his face like he was entertaining himself, like he was having fun. But every single person who's had the up close in the car, like you're a fish in the bowl being gawked at, every single person has said the head, the face filled the window. There you go. Share, my man. Appreciate you. Right back anytime. Right back if you want. Share with us if you talk to your siblings about it and what did they recall and how they've been dealing with it. Maybe they're here too. I don't know. I don't know. Sasquatch Experience, title of this email. Steve, I've been hooked on your channel ever since I stumbled upon it. I'm 58 years old, avid turkey and deer hunter. The past 10 years I've had to slow some because I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Yes, it sucks. But what do you do? My dad always told me to quote, keep on keeping on, end quote. And by watching your channel, I guess I've been holding on to an experience or story that occurred around 1975 or 76. My dad and good friend went coon hunting around Henderson, Kentucky. I went along but didn't want to stay home. I don't like coon hunting, but absolutely hated staying at home even more. I'm not exactly sure if we went all the way into Henderson, but thinking there's a town called Spotsville, which is the small community that has its own experience. It was called the Spotsville Monster. I didn't have a clue what that was at the time. But anyways, my dad's friend drove his truck up my dad's friend drove his truck up in a picked cornfield. They dropped the tailgate, turned the dogs loose, and after a few minutes later, the chase was on. After a short period of time, we heard a scream/howl, very disturbing. My dad and his friend looked at each other and said, "What the hell was that?" They both agreed that it wasn't a bobcat or a bear, and they didn't know what it was. A few moments later, here come the dogs, and they ran under the truck. They had to drag the back out. They didn't want to cast again, so we left. My dad had a brindle plot hound that was also used to tree black bear. So looking back now, and doing a little research on my own, I pretty much figured out what it was. I'm glad I didn't see it. It was bad enough hearing it, let alone seeing Dad passed away 2018. A little too late to talk to him about it now, but his friends are still living, and I'm going to catch up with him and pick his brain. I know he's probably had more experiences. My dad's originally from Grayson County, Kentucky, which I've heard you read several stories from that location. I've got a story about an orb that were seen by my grandfather, maybe in the late 30s, early 40s. My grandpa and grandmother were walking down the road toward home, and they seen a ball of light come out of his neighbor's barn. I suppose he thought maybe the guy was pulling a cap or something, and he thought the light was a lantern, but instead of going towards the guy's house, the light, but instead of going towards the guy's house, the light turned and headed straight at them. My granddad grabbed my grandmother and pulled her out of the way of the ball of light, or orb, and he said it traveled down the road towards their house, and he said they thought it went down in his water well and disappeared. My dad's two sisters also had an experience in that area as well. They both saw a very large upright being cross the road they had had to travel to get home from their grandparents' house. That damn near scared the water out of them both. Steve, appreciate what you're doing. Stay safe. God bless you and your family. And P.S. Don't think that I'm a pervert or anything like that. I'm just throwing this out there. I wonder if some of these people's abductions has something to do with breeding purposes, to introduce new blood into their clan to keep from inbreeding. There, I said it. My name's Tim Hayes. I live in southern Indiana. You can share my name if you want. I'm also a fellow street rod enthusiast. I got a 55 Ford F100, and my brother has a 67 RS Camaro that I'm helping him build. Well, I'll quit now. I've been wasting enough of your time. God bless. And God bless you too, man. Appreciate that email. Big time. The abduction thing, well, yeah. It definitely, obviously, whoever's doing it, I mean, I do believe bad humans are doing it, so it's either, I guess it's any reason, right? Right? After DNA, after crossbreeding, after food, after sex. Right? Or who knows? Maybe even cheap-ass labor somewhere. The mysteries are endless, right? So this lifetime is just so freaking crazy. Especially today. If you're watching globally what's going on the whole planet, everything is so freaking crazy. I'm going to keep going. Keep going. I got a lot of them. All right. One more. This is titled Encounter with Invisible Being in Harrison Hot Springs. No way. Here we go. Hi, Steve. I'll keep this as short as possible because I know you're swamped with messages. 6.5 years ago, in August 2018, I was hiking around 3,000 feet at about 4 p.m. with a friend of mine and her dog on a trail referred to as the Harrison Grind in Harrison Hot Springs, British Columbia. We were walking along a flat part of the trail within the canopy of the forest that was leading to an opening where a large boulder field was on the left side. I've been glancing down at the ground, about 45 degrees, and with my peripheral vision, I suddenly noticed a grayish blur of some sort jet across the trail where the forest opened up to the sky and the boulder field started. The thing was totally silent, and I stopped and noticed the dog ahead of me also stopped and stuck its head up with ears suddenly lifted and stared toward the exact spot I noticed something, and I knew something was there. My friend had not noticed. I immediately took out my bear spray and told my friend to come back to me, as I did a semicircle to create more distance between us and whatever it was that I was sure would be waiting right beside the trail behind a rock. It had not made any noise since I saw it 5 seconds earlier, so I was sure something was there, as the ground was littered with sticks, rocks, and debris that nothing could be silent in. I was super quiet myself as I approached, and to my surprise, nothing was there. I looked around for several minutes and couldn't notice a sign of anything. Now fast forward 2 hours, and we are further down the same trail, gathering kindling for a fire, and it's dusk now, and all of a sudden I hear something 15 feet from me, just off the path, that scared the hell out of me, as it sounded like something much bigger than me had come to a screeching halt down the slight hill within the forest. Again, I immediately brought my bear spray out and flashlight on my phone, expecting an encounter again. And it went dead silent after that initial noise, and I could see nothing. Strange. It was utterly bizarre. I looked for 10 minutes and saw no sign of any bear, cougar, or anything supernatural. How could something like that? How could something sound like 800 pounds stomping on the ground and make zero noise right after, presumably leaving the area? I'd known about the 411 before this and the boulder field thing, where strange disappearances often occur around them. It made me think and kept me up that night. And now, after listening to other people write you about semi-translucent beings like the Predator movie, really makes me wonder. And I hear of many bizarre encounters in southwest BC, as you know. And Steve, I've been listening to your videos almost daily for over a year now, and I gotta say, I really appreciate and respect the amount of time you put into reading all these emails, and my gut tells me you're a salt-to-the-earth guy. I share the exact same feelings with you on the topics of our freedom and rights, as well as all these emails, criminal scumbags who are constantly trying to ruin our world. One more thing. I'd really like to know if you've got any interesting Sasquatch stories around the Mount Baker Wilderness area. I live close to it and frequent all the trails in this region, which we're lucky to have because it is truly world-class beauty in hiking. I'm also wondering if if anyone's ever anonymously or not threatened you because of the truth that you're helping to unveil. At this point in the game, I don't see why any government operatives or others would bother because this info is so widespread on the internet. I hope to one day meet you and shake your hand and talk more in depth. Thank you, Chad. Chad, appreciate it, man. And yeah, there's a shit pile of experiences and sightings around Mount Baker, Mount Hood, all of them. Mount St. Helens especially, all of them, right? And have I been threatened? Not lately. In the beginning, when everybody thought I was really aggressive on here, there was a lot going on behind the scenes with the majority of the so-called big names behind the scenes. They were getting people to attack me via emails. Coward shit, obviously. I had people associated with them warning me that they were coming for me. I had people back then telling me exactly who was trying to sabotage me, and one of them is on some prominent TV show. And they also let me know who they were using to cowardly try to sabotage my shit. And there's a bunch of that stupid shit going on in the beginning. And obviously, all that does is fuel me, right? You're not going to win. You're not going to win with me. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So you're not going to win. So the more you do, the more fuel I get. And that's why we now are today the most viewed channel online when it comes to this topic. And why am I laughing? I laugh. The part that makes me instantly laugh is knowing how badly these people wanted me to shut up and not do this, and where we are today. So that's what makes me laugh. Right? It's kind of in your face, sucker. Right? Way to go. You tell me I can't do something, it guarantees I'm going to do it. I don't know why. I've always been like that since I was a kid, even. But anyway. Anyway, appreciate that email. Appreciate the emails from everybody. I appreciate everyone. And I got to get ripping. I got a whole bunch of all my camera gear and all my batteries and chargers and cables and shit everywhere. Fishing gear I got organized. I might go in the woods here pretty quick. Sarah's still away for a while. And I got animals to take care of. This damn big, huge raccoon pinched one of my chickens just before I left. And I guess I was out there in my frickin' underwear with a rifle, because I heard the chickens going bonkers. It was about an hour before daylight, and I walked over, checked in the coop. Everybody's in there, but there's still a couple chickens that are out that think they want to roost in the trees, so I guess he grabbed one. And I saw the drag marks across the front, or I couldn't see the chicken by our pond. And then I was leaving in the morning to leave, and I glanced over, saw a raven, ran over, saw the raven, grabbed the raccoon trap, a live trap. I wired the chicken in the back when I set it. And then I just came home. The boy said, hasn't been there, but he's not familiar with really what to look at. So I went and looked at the trap. The trap's upside down. So I guess the sucker got in there, and maybe it's too big for that door to close properly. I don't know, or he did get it. I don't know what happened, but he rolled around and managed to get that trap upside down, and it was open. I'm like, oh, you lucky bastard! But he's probably not going to go near it again, right? So then I set the trap up again last night, and I just went and checked it. The door's sprung. Nothing's in it. I'm like, okay, I'll get your ass. Anyways, sorry for that babble. I got to do that. What else? Another quick story that's interesting to me and probably will be to a lot of you. I had late coffee with a man I have a lot of respect for. He's the ex-fire chief in Pemberton, and he lives rurally. I've been out there over the years helping him with bad wolves and stuff. Interesting story for any of you people who are curious. And he said he had his granddaughter on his quad last year going up to his back field and along this road. This is near Seton Lake. And he said he looked ahead, and all of a sudden he says, and this guy's been hunting all his life. He doesn't need to embellish any of his game sighting stories, you know what I mean? And he said this grizzly bear stood up, and he said his head was the size of a frickin' drum. He said it was the biggest grizzly he's ever seen in his life. And just stood up looking at him. And he's on the quad with his little granddaughter behind him on the quad seat. So he said they spun around, went back to the house. And then he said he figured there's no way the bear didn't have something there. So he said he jumped in his truck, drove down the old road, and he said, there's the bear. And he said it was standing over one of the largest black bears he's ever seen in his life. And he said that he literally grabbed it in his mouth and dragged it straight uphill, up the bank like it was a frickin' beach towel. Crazy, right? Impressive sight. Impressive sight. But imagine what that fight must have looked like in person, with a massive grizzly bear taking on a massive black bear for lunch. Oh, and he went back and checked on it, and he said it was gone just under a week. He ate the whole thing in under a week. But that makes sense, because up north, I remember this one monster grizzly, he ate one of our horses, which broke its leg. We had to shoot it. But from the time he discovered that horse, he had that horse ate in just out a week. A horse. All right, there you go. And again, yeah, so unfortunately, the innocence, in a way, the sense of absolute secureness got taken yesterday from our home, you know, in a different way that I do not appreciate at all. I'm sure the person had no ill intentions, but that has nothing to do with this. The blatant obvious fact is, a grown man found me on the internet, went out of his way to figure out where I lived, and came here uninvited on a rural property, a dead-end road, went through a closed gate, and pounded on my door of my house. That changes a lot here at my home now, unfortunately, and as I would think that all of you would agree, very, very uncool. I was really, really kind of raging about it later on after the fact. Because normally I'm a friendly guy, right? I am a friendly person. I'm not an overly protective person, but threatened, then the other side of me comes out like it should, and then it's going to get really, really ugly. So I have to stand behind my rule here. Right now, I'm going over to the other neighbor, and I'm going to explain to him the rules of how it's going to go down here from this day forward. If anybody comes to my home uninvited from the internet, I don't give a shit where, and crosses that gate and comes to my home, the rules are you are instantly, you're going to get dummied. End of story. Sad but true. It's a roll of the dice. It's 50-50 what's going to go down for anyone that lives anywhere when you have somebody coming up on your home, especially rurally, uninvited. All right? Because once they bang on the door, boom, it's done. Whatever their intentions are, it's now done. And it's a 50-50 roll of the dice. Right? Comment in the comment section below how you feel about that, all right? And we'll see what people think about this. But before you just knee-jerk react and say I'm being a bit of a dick, okay, well, just picture you living rurally, dead-end road, and let's just say you're not there and your wife is. And she's not, and somebody's knocking on the door. It doesn't even matter. They can kick the door in. You can kick the door in any house. Think about it. It's a 50-50 roll of the dice. What's coming next? 50-50. It's either going to be good or it's going to be bad. Right? So, from this day forward, you come onto my property, uninvited. And in this case, it's not like an emergency or somebody's just to say my horses got out or something, which you can easily tell. They're going to be yelling at you from the end of the driveway. But you come to my home and roll up in my home, you're not going to leave on your feet. All right? Do I hope that happens? Not at all. I don't want that to happen. I don't want anybody coming to my fucking house uninvited. But that's the rule. That's the rules confirmed with 2 of my neighbors who see shit before I do. And I'm just going to go over and talk to my other neighbor right now and make sure he knows what the rules are now, and we're all on board, and that's just the way it is. Share my story at howtohunt.com. All right? Email me. Email me your truth, word for word, and it'll get shared word for word, all right? It's very important to keep truth flowing, no matter what. While we can, especially here in Canada, Stan. While we still can. I'll be back tomorrow.